Hello, this is Dr. Chuck. I want to, this week in this assignment area, I just would like to talk just for a couple minutes to you about research, the research method. Most of us are familiar with research. We hear people all the time talking about research says this, and I went to something this weekend and they said, well, research proved this. We did research projects probably as kids in high school, did studies. And so research is anytime that we look into something to try and find an answer. And in business, it's when we have a dilemma that we're trying to solve. We create a question from that. And the idea is if we answer that question, we'll have the information that we need to move forward. So that research process that makes it different for a graduate level student versus maybe a high school student or even anyone in the workplace that just tries to collect information for the research project. The differences and the key things are really understand if we think about the research process is having the right question because we don't always ask the right questions. If I ask the wrong question, I'll do research that may answer that question, but find that question does not help us in the business or within the organization. So it's critical that we have the right questions that we're asking. Second, once we have the questions that we understand from that question, what type of information do I need? Do I am going to just observe people? Do I need to ask people questions and do communications with people? Do I want people's feelings? Do I just want their intuition? Do I just want their experience? Do I need to collect data? Do I need to look at how many times they do a specific act at a specific time, in a specific way, in a specific manner? All of these are the different research methodologies that you're going to choose depending on the answer that you need from your question. Once we determine what question we're asking, if it's going to be valid, if it's going to help us solve our problem, as well as the research we need to do, we need to design our research instrument. We need to consider, if it's a quantitative study, we need to consider what type of data am I looking for? Where can I get that data? We've already looked at validity and reliability in research. We have to ensure that the research we're doing has internal validity. The questions are right, the questions are written properly, that once we get the answers, that we can take that information and maybe infer it back into the organization. So we have to really consider ourselves with, again, validity and reliability within that research process. And also I want to talk really quick about doing literature reviews. We're doing a literature review for your research proposal. Other organizations may have had some of the issues, some of the same problems, so it's worthwhile doing some valid research and looking at some secondary sources to understand some of the questions that have been asked and maybe the answers they've had, and from there maybe form a hypothesis. And remember, a hypothesis is statistically significant. We never prove anything with a hypothesis. We will formulate a hypothesis, we will test it, and we'll just fail to reject it. So we accept it, and as we have more information, we continue to accept, and it maybe becomes statistically significant. And then we can decide as an organization, as an individual, am I going forward with that? Do I have enough confidence in the information to make a business decision, from what we have found? So again, look at research as the importance of the research question. Research in terms of qualitative or quantitative, and look for areas of validity. You've got participants, you've got data collection, you've got yourself as a data collector, you've got the way the questions are written. All these are factors in really the success of a research process and proposal. And then once we have that research done, we have to do something with it. And from there, then it goes into the design of the performance improvement or the change that we want to bring about from that research. And I hope you also take some of this and think about some of this as you hear others talk about research. As you hear others mention the research process and research prove this, you can start asking those really valid questions. What group did you look at? Who did the research? Were there any biases in that? What were some of the assumptions made? What were some of the paradigms they had? What were some of the drawbacks of the research? What were some areas where we could have done better research? These are all questions to ask if I have this information. Again, from what population do we get it from? What sample size do we get it from? What groups did we get? Who did the research? And even if I have really good data, even if I have internal validity, do I have external validity can this bit of information that I received from a couple case studies really apply to everyone in the organization or everyone outside of the organization? Or is it just some good information that now I can use to develop a further theory or a further hypothesis to maybe do more research in other organizations and other venues? I hope this helps a little bit on the research method. I'm enjoying the research projects, enjoying looking at where everyone's going with their projects, and it looks like you can solve some problems within your organizations as well as learn about the research method and methodology. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me. You have my number. Send me emails. Use the Ask the Professor portion, and I'd like you to make sure that you understand research a little bit better when you leave this class. And when you leave this class, you don't just have some folk research methods of ask some questions, get some answers, and by golly, forget about internal and external validity and everything else we're going to talk about in this class. Thanks.